Good morning, everybody. So right now I'm going to go over the comprehension questions for chapter 3, which is Las Papayas. That's the one we read yesterday, so you should have done these yesterday. So we'll go over the answers for those today. So there was a few on here that were tricky, so I'll just let you know kind of which ones and all that. Number 1, the papayas under Esperanza's window are a symbol of what? A, loss, B, happiness, C, wealth, or D, celebrations. Well, chapter 2 was very sad because that's when Papa dies. So I don't think the papayas symbolize happiness, wealth, or celebrations. They would have symbolized celebrations had it been a normal day, and they would have normally had, maybe they do actually. I think they do symbolize celebrations because they're supposed to be there for Esperanza's birthday, and then she keeps looking down out of her window at them. Okay, so all right, let's do this. If you put A or D, loss or celebrations, you can count it as correct. Because at first I thought loss, because the chapter was all about losing Papa, but the papayas themselves may symbolize the celebration that would have happened if everything was normal. So A or D, I would accept. Number 2, name 2 animals Tio Luis was compared to and explain why these animals were selected. So first, if you can remember earlier in the chapter, Esperanza calls them 2 underfed billy goats because they look like them. They have like little straggly beards and like white mustaches or whatever. So one is a billy goat. And then the second one I had to look back in because it's only mentioned briefly, but Abuelita calls them vultures because they're trying to take everything from Mama. They're trying to make her marry Luis. He got the land, and then they're trying to take the house and all that too. Number 3, so billy goat and vultures for that one. Number 3, he was still looking at her with eyes full of hurt. Before Miguel left her there, he said softly, "You were right, Esperanza. In Mexico, we stand on different sides of the river." Explain the meanings of Miguel's words. So I just said that the river represents the difference in Miguel and Esperanza's socioeconomic class, which kind of just means like she was the rich landowner's daughter and he is the servant's son. Like that's, a metaphorical river that's between them that will keep them from being together. We talked about that already. You answered a question about that. Okay, good. An extended response question. Number 4, read this line from chapter 3. The work is hard in the United States, but at least there we have a chance to be more than servants. This line supports which of the following book themes? A, education, B, poverty, C, class and society, or D, prejudice. So they're talking about how in the U.S., Alfonso and Miguel would have a chance to be more than just a servant. They would have an opportunity to work their way up and maybe become a landowner or, a mechanic or something like that Miguel wants to be. But in Mexico, they don't have that chance. They are servants and that's all they'll ever be. So education, they're not talking about education. He's not going to school or anything. Poverty, there would be poverty in Mexico, but that's not quite what they're mentioning. Class and society, that more makes sense because that's where they're having the opportunity to move between classes, move from the servant class to maybe the middle class. And then prejudice, no, it's not prejudice. Okay, so 4 is C. Number 5, write A. Okay, this one was confusing to some of you, I'm sure, because we never actually talked about someone wanted but so statements. So I just put on Google Classroom, just write a summary. Like a visual or a written gist would be fine. But I thought about it and I figured out what they meant by someone wanted but so. So you have to say someone. So who's someone? So let's say Esperanza wanted. What did she want? Esperanza wanted to keep her house. But Tio Luis is trying to marry Mama. So what do? Mama says, I'm not going to marry her. Something like that. So you have to pick someone and what they wanted, but what was the problem, and then what was the solution. Don't worry about that, though, because we never talked about that in school. I had to, really think about that one. So if you just did a summary there, that's great. Number 6, sequence the following events by numbering them in correct order. Senor Rodriguez brings papayas. The lawyer tells Mama that Papa left the house and all the contents to her and Esperanza. Esperanza dreams about the birthday song. Tio Luis and Tio Marco sort through Papa's papers in his office. Tio Luis tells Mama he wants to marry her. And then Esperanza opens her birthday gifts. So the first thing that happened was Esperanza was dreaming. She was dreaming about the birthday song. She heard Papa in her window singing to her. So that was number 1. Then number 2, Senor Rodriguez brings the papayas because it was supposed to be for the celebration, which they didn't have, obviously. So that's number 2. And then number 3, Esperanza opens her birthday gifts. And then number 4, Tio Luis and Tio Marco sort through Papa's papers in his office. Then number 5, the lawyer tells Mama that Papa left the house and all of its contents to her and Esperanza. Then number 6, Tio Luis tells Mama he wants to marry her. So it goes 2, 5, 1, 4, 6, 3. Okay, number 7. Read this line from the text. Be careful. He is a devious, dangerous man. This is an example of A, a simile, B, a metaphor, C, personification, or D, alliteration. So you know simile and metaphors are a comparison of sorts, and there's not like or as in there. Personification we talked about with the tendril, the vine reaching out, giving it, the author giving it a personal trait, like shaking the hand. So it's not that. So alliteration is when you repeat the same letter at the beginning of words in a row, like devious, dangerous. So that would be D, alliteration. And 8, why do you think the author included Spanish words in the story? I don't really like this question because it's a story about Spanish people that live in, people who speak Spanish that live in Mexico. So, of course, there's Spanish words I put to help us understand the characters and the setting. If you were confused by that, don't worry about that one. That one, I don't like that question. Okay, so to review, number 1 was A. Number 2 was Billy Goat and Vulture. Number 3 was the river represents the difference in their class. Number 4, C. Number 5 was just a plain summary. You could put whatever you did. Number 6 was 2, 5, 1, 4, 6, 3. Number 7 was D. And number 8, and I just put to understand the characters in the setting, whatever you wanted to put. So that's it for comprehension question answers for chapter 3. Bye.